Hello everyone, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another Diablo 3 video. Today we are bringing you another Crusader video for Season 24 here in Diablo 3. So we are going to be covering the Legacy of Dreams build. So this is of course using the Legacy of Dreams gem, which requires or basically buffs you for every legendary or ancient item that is not part of a set. So here, as you can see, we have no set. We're just using ancient items because of course that'll give us double the bonus from Legacy of Dreams. So an ancient item would increase our damage by 375% and reduce our damage taken by 2%. Whereas if it's ancient, it doubles that. So we would have 750% increased damage and 4% damage reduction. So basically the set works on two different things. So we are using Bombardment, so we're using the Belt of Trove here, and we are using Thorns as well as Akarat's Awakening whenever we block to reduce cooldowns. And so basically we're calling down the thunder and blocking stuff and returning damage when people hit us, and that's pretty much how the build works. And we're using Stricken to stack the Thorns damage as well as on Bombardment to get everything down. So that's a quick intro, so let's get into what we need to make this build work. So once again, as for the last video that we did, we're just going to have a video playing in the bottom left here where we can see some gameplay footage of how the build works. So basically the items that we need for this build, again because it's Legacy of Dreams, there are no set pieces. So we're using all ancient or hoping to get ancient items, and so it's based off Bombardment and Thorns. So we want a Leoric's Crown, so this is to reduce the cooldown because we want to be able to be in Akarats as often as possible, as well as we want to be able to cast Bombardment when we can. The neck, we're using a Hellfire Amulet, and the idea behind this is we want to try to get one of the passives that we need. So in this one I happen to gain Fervor, which is good, so it reduces cooldown by using a one-hander, which we are using. We want Aquila Cuirass for the damage reduction when we have max Fury or above 90% ideally. We are also using for the shoulders, we just basically want a good roll here. So here we have strength, resist, and armor, but more importantly we got the increased bombardment damage. Ultimately I'll probably re-roll the armor into vitality here, which would make it great. And additionally, the secondary stat, we also have thorns, so this is actually a phenomenal roll for the shoulders because we also want to be stacking Thorns damage as well. For the gloves, we're using the Stone Gauntlets again, so this is for the damage reduction. So of course it increases our armor every time we get hit. Bracers, we are using the Strong Arm Bracers, so enemies hit by knockback suffer up to 30% increased damage for 6 seconds, so the bombardment effect actually scales, or that procs the damage increase, so that's good there. The mandatory piece for this build is the Belt of Trove. So basically every 4 seconds it calls down a bombardment on random nearby enemies, and bombardment deals an increase up to 500% more damage. So this is mandatory. Without this, the build doesn't work. For rings, there are a couple options depending on what you want to do. So I am currently rocking the Justice Lantern because that'll increase my chance to block and also give a damage reduction equal to 54, well, up to 55% of my block chance. So basically it gives me more chance to block, which will work with Akarat's Awakening to reduce the cooldown of, potentially reduce the cooldown of an ability that's on cooldown. And then we are using the Stone of Jordan with it. And so this basically takes each of your elemental damage bonus. It basically makes all of your elemental damages equal to the highest static one. So I've been stacking Holy on my, on my items. So I got Holy on my neck and on my bracers. And so basically it would look here. So if I go into, so here I have 91% increased damage for Holy. So it applies it to everything. And also we are using Convention of Elements in the cube. So all the way down here. So basically that also increases it up to 200. So 200%. So I'm going to be doing 291% in every affix here. And bombardment is actually physical, so basically I was stacking the holy because that's what I had the rolls for, and because I'm using Stone of Jordan it makes the physical also 91% up here. So now when I'm in the physical cycle it's going to deal 291% damage, so bombardment is going to hit phenomenally hard during that. Alternately, you can use, I've seen builds that are using the Litany of the Undaunted rings. So this is the Legacy of Nightmares ring set. So what this does is it's like the Legacy of Dreams, um, except for it's in the ring. So basically we lose the LOD ring, and then you could basically it opens up a gem slot, so then you could also be using like Bane of the Trapped, for example. I've seen that build as well. But again, then they would use Convention of Elements in the cube in the ring slot. Moving on from the rings, for pants, we also want to use Blackthorn's lags here because, of course, they added the elemental affix. So here I got lucky and I got a primal, so I have the holy damage rolled on. So that is pretty sweet. So again, that helps get me up to the 91% that I've been rocking. And additionally, with the Stone of Jordan, it also has I just remembered, it also has an elemental affix. So here I have 16% on the ring as well, which is what is helping stack it. Then for the shield, as mentioned, we're using Acrats because it has a chance whenever you block to reduce a cooldown on one of the spells that you have on CD. We're using Illusory Boots so we can move unhindered through enemies, which is pretty key because we don't have a movement speed, so we can just keep walking forward. Then for the weapon, we are using the Redeemer, so the scepter here. And it has the elemental affix on it as well. So as you can see, we got 17% holy damage on this. My plus damage is kind of weak at only 78, but basically we're using that. We also get another passive that we need, which is hold our ground, so it increases our block chance. So that's two good passives that I've got from my items. And also there's two different variations that we want. We either want, this one has the furnace on it, so of course the furnace increases your damage against elites. So here we have increased the damage by 47%. Or you would want the Mortal Drama, so this doubles the number of bombardment impacts and it also increases the damage by up to 500%. So that is what I have in the cube. So if I just look at the cube down here, we have the Mortal Drama, the COE, and then for the armor, I'm using String of Ears, which reduces the damage from melee attacks by up to 30%. Alternatively, you could actually be using Leoric's Crown as the armor piece, and then you could pick up like in Andriel's Visage for a helmet because it's got that elemental damage. I haven't found one, so you could do that as well. I didn't find one with holy damage on, which is why I'm using Leoric's, but that's another option that you could have as well. For the skills that we need for this build, so we are using Punish with Celerity. Oh my goodness, that was brutal pronunciation, but anyway. Moving on, it's early in the morning. So basically this is what we're using to generate Wrath. So as you can see, we generate 5 Wrath per attack, and it just deals some damage and increases our block chance. That's what we would like. We are using Bombardment, so again this is our big damage spell, so we're using Bombardment with Barrel Spikes, so it calls in an assault, raining 5 barrels of spikes on enemies around you, dealing big damage to all enemies within 12 yards of the impact, and damage of each barrel is increased by 200% of your thorns, so that is another reason we are rocking the thorns as well. We also have reflective iron skin with reflective skin here, so this basically turns us into iron, 50% damage reduction, and it also triples the damage of our thorns. So we want to have that up as often as possible, so our bombardment are dealing max damage. Condemn, so we're building up a massive explosion, literally, so it deals some damage as holy to all enemies within 15 yards, and as it charges up, it basically sucks enemies in closer, so it kind of works as a, well, just as it says there, the vacuum, so it just helps us with our stacking. For the law, we are using Law of Justice with the King's Strength, so this empowers us, gives us more elemental resistance for survivability, and it also, yeah, just increases our resist all. And then of course we're using Akrat's Champion with Profit, so this basically we deal more damage and increases our wrath generation, as well as we get more armor while Akrat's is active. For our passives, I'm using Holy Cause because my neck has Fervor, so otherwise I would have Further. So while wielding a one-handed weapon, your attack speed is increased and all cooldowns are reduced by 15%. We also get on my weapon I have Hold Your Ground, so we can't dodge, but our block is increased, so that works with Akrat's, or sorry, with Akrat's Awakening to reduce our cooldown, and then we're using Iron Maiden to increase our Thorns by 50%. Lord Commander, so basically this helps with the cooldown on Bombardment. And then we're using Finery, of course, to get some more strength for every gem that's socketed. And then because I got both Forever and Hold My Ground, I'm using Holy Cause just for more damage as well, and as also a little bit of healing as well. So that's pretty much what we're doing with the skills here. Potentially, I could get rid of Holy Cause, and I could go Instructable if I wanted a third life, essentially, because we'd get our main one, then our follower will give us one, and then of course Akrat's gives us one as well. So if I wanted to do that, that would also be an option. For the stats that we would like on our items, so just going to bring this up here. So for the helm, I would prefer to have strength, vitality, and then I have my crit, as well as you want to have a good secondary property there. So I only have 84%. I would love to get one a little bit higher. For the neck, ideally I would have the elemental plus. I would also like to have critical hit chance and critical hit damage, so it's almost ideal. Also, I would like this to be ancient. I haven't got one yet. And of course, to make the Hellfire Amulet, you're killing all the key guardians and then just opening up their rift, which is over here, in case you didn't know. Like you go through that door and open up all the different rifts, and the keys drop out the key guardians. So this is what like the Infernal Machine is for. So you would do that. Sorry. And then for the shoulders, yeah, I would want strength, and then I would want vitality, resist all, maybe cooldown instead of vitality, but strength, resist all, because of course we can get vitality through our Paragon, and then we want to increase bombardment damage. For the chest, ideally it would be strength, vitality, and resist all. When you get like here, these are some decent stats, like armor is okay. So when I have the ideal stats, I'm rolling additional thorns damage because it's going to scale my bombardment damage. For the bracers, I want elemental damage plus 6 max critical hit chance, as well as because we're using strong arms, we want a high unique affix as well. For the belt, so here just a regular belt, that's all I found so far, but the unique affix is high at 493%. So for here, because it's survivability slash the affix, I'd focus for strength, vitality, and then resist all, and then you could roll that fourth property into something else. But again, I'm just mainly using this for the high percent on the unique affix. For the gloves, here I have some cooldown reduction and critical hit damage. I could have went for critical hit chance instead. So ideally for this, you'd kind of want 3 damage properties. So I went and rolled Thorns just to test it out. Ideally, I probably should have went critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then the cooldown reduction. That would probably have yielded more damage, but I just wanted to test out how the Thorns was working. For the rings, we want to have, ideally, if you could find it, would be awesome if you could have like critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and cooldown reduction. Depending on what gems you are or what rings you're using, kind of varies what you can roll on here. So with the Jester's Lantern, you obviously want the chance to block. So here I would probably roll off the resist all into critical hit chance. For the Stone of Jordan, this is kind of harder because it has a couple properties that are already on there, and you need to get the gem slots. So here I didn't have the gem slot, I had to roll it on, but again, you'd get the increased damage against elites, the critical hit chance, and then if you're using the Stone of Jordan, you want to have whatever elemental affix you're stacking. For the other rings, so here for my set of Legacy of Nightmares, if you're using this one is actually really good because it's got critical hit chance and critical hit damage. So then for the other, I could reroll strength into cooldown reduction if I wanted, or I could even do area of effect if I wanted to as well. So those are a couple options there. For the pants, we want the elemental affix that you're stacking, strength, vitality, and resist all. For the shield, so here I have strength. I'd prefer to probably have vitality as well as critical hit. damage on or critical hit chance on here because you can get 10% critical hit chance on a shield. So, but here I have, and also we want to keep the chance to block because of course we're trying to block as often as possible to reduce the cooldown. The boots are survivability items, so I would want here, they're pretty good. So I got strength, fit, resist all, and I'm keeping the move speed just because we don't have a movement speed on this build, so I'm keeping the move speed just so I can move quicker throughout the dungeon. And on the weapon, you want to get the elemental affects that you're stacking, and then of course you want it to either have the furnace on it, so increase damage against elites, or you want it to have the mortal drama, which is double the number of bombardment and increase the damage that bombardment does. And we want a good unique affix, so here I got 47% out of 50, and I've cubed the mortal drama just because then I can get the 500% increased damage and I don't have to risk getting a low roll there, like because the bottom end is 400. So those are the stats that I'm looking for. Now I quickly just wanted to touch on the follower because sometimes they get overlooked. So for the Enchantress, she has a unique ability. Like now, keep in mind mine's not very well decked out, but she does have these abilities where it reduces your cooldowns based on the Enchantress's intelligence. Or also she, like basically her damage and the abilities that she brings to you is increased by the amount of intellect she has. So I have a few too many characters. I got tired of transferring all the items over to gear them out. So basically you want to stack her intelligence as high as possible, but of course the main items that you want them to have is a flavor of time so that it emanates the pylon effect lasting twice as long. You want them to be wearing the Nemesis bracers to spawn the elite whenever you find a pylon, just to help you quickly get through the rift. And of course you want the Oculus ring. Those are the three main items that you would like them to have. Any follower, the Enchantress from my understanding is one of the best ones, especially considering they can reduce your cooldown based on the intellect level. So do what you can to gear them out. Hopefully you have an int based character that you've been able to accumulate these items on, and then you can just stack that up and gear them out. Definitely equip them better than what I've done here. So this is the Legacy of Dreams Crusader build with the Bombardment and Thorns. So if you have any questions or comments, please let us know below. If you have any tips or tricks that you've also found from running this build, please share as well. We enjoy having conversation and sharing all this information with everybody that views these videos. As always, we appreciate any likes, subscribes, and shares. So we enjoy making these videos for you guys. We appreciate all the likes and subscribes and everything that you guys do for us. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. And as always, good luck out there and have fun.